I'm Bob Wheeler, and this is Cars and Culture with Jason Stein.
Well, Bob, what a pleasure to have you on Cars and Culture. It's great to talk to you. You have a fascinating story, one that we're going to get into today.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Appreciate the opportunity.
So I want to go to one of the last lines that was a bit of a creed, if you will, from the founder of Airstream, Wally Byam, who said that to strive endlessly to stir the venturesome spirit that moves you to follow a rainbow to its end, this makes travel dreams come true. Interestingly, that was written a long time ago, probably in the neighborhood of about 100 years ago, nearly. But the same thing could really be applied today, couldn't it? Striving endlessly to stir the venturesome spirit that moves you to follow a rainbow to its end.
Yeah, that spark, which really was started by our founder, Wally Byam, as you note, very much continues in the culture of the company today. I mean, our mission, we make these beautiful pieces of industrial art, but really what we're trying to do is create this opportunity, a springboard, an avenue, enabling people to have an adventure, giving them the courage to get to the end of their driveway and take a turn. And that's really what Wally was talking about those many years ago.
Wally could have never imagined, after having put a tent on top of a Model T frame, basically, that COVID 2022 would have that same adventurous spirit to it for so many people. And we're a long way from Culver City, California, in 1931 with the first facility. But that spirit does live on, especially in the times that we're living in, right?
Yeah, this whole pandemic, it's turned everyone's world on its head, but for Airstream and for the RV industry, the surprising outcome is that we've seen an explosion in business as you know, people turn to recreational activities that they could do safely and with their families in the pandemic setting. And when you shorten the list of things you can do and do it safely, RVs really move to the top of the list. It's confined travel. You've got your hotel room, you've got your kitchen, you've got your bathroom, you don't have to rent a car, really checked all the boxes. And then when you get where you're going, you're socially distanced, you're in nature, right? So a lot of people discovered that RVing was a great opportunity during the pandemic, and we certainly have seen that spike in business.
So you actually wrote something for the internal website that was distributed, Bob's blog, if you will. And one of the items is you go back to the start of the pandemic, and there was a huge amount of concern over exactly where things were going to go with Airstream. Fast forward, and one of the things that you wrote is that overwhelmingly, when you surveyed some of your potential customers or current customers, or even just kind of looked at the travel business going forward, 67% of folks had researched or planned a vacation for when things, quote, got back to normal. 64% wanted to avoid crowds, and fewer people wanted to go to cities or ski resorts or beaches. Instead, they wanted to go off the grid. So lo and behold, you end up with year-over-year sales records. You got more customers than you could possibly imagine. And in fact, dealers looking for inventory. I mean, you could have never played this out.
Yeah, I look back, it's 2 years now. In March of 2020, we shut down for 6 weeks because of state mandated shutdown orders. During that time, we were forecasting disaster for the industry with the recessionary pressures and unemployment. And then we came back 6 weeks later and things weren't actually as bad as we thought. And then within a month, our business had just gone through the roof. Record sales year over year. We kept breaking sales records month after month. And that really has not abated much for us to this point. People seem to have come to the lifestyle and they've fallen in love with it. Our goal during this whole period is to get them to do that, even if it was a marriage of convenience or a shotgun wedding, I guess, as you may want to look at it. If we can get people to fall in love with the Airstream lifestyle and come back for life, then we've really built the foundation for our business for the next 20 years. So it's been, I hate the way we got here, but it's been a
Right.
tremendous opportunity for us.
COVID taketh away, COVID giveth. What it has not given you is enough skilled labor, which is an interesting issue that, just reading a little bit about where Airstream is today, You said recently you interview 100 people to get 20. You have more applicants than you know what to do with.
Yeah, and that's a little historic. We've seen that tighten up a bit here in the last 6 months, but we're still very, very selective. Airstreams are built by hand, and it takes people that are really dedicated to the idea of creating something that's long lasting and iconic. And those people don't walk through the door, in droves. So we're pretty selective. We have a great onboarding process. We were lucky to be local employer of choice, first shift operation. So we've got some advantages, and we really attract fantastic people. And without whom we just couldn't do what we do.
Tell me a little bit about the Airstream customer and whether it's changed over the course of the last 2 years. I'm guessing the answer is yes, but how much has it changed? Who wants an Airstream now? Who wants to all those statistics that we cited in terms of wanting to get away and avoid crowds and lodging in isolated places? So who's coming through the front door now?
Yeah, there has been a shift. We still have our traditional customer who's late 50s, either retired or early retiree, very active and adventurous. But during the pandemic, we've seen that whole age group of our buying public to shift a little lower. And we're seeing a lot of families. If you think about it, mom and dad are digital workers that can work from anywhere, especially with the new pandemic workplace rules. Their kids were learning from home, which means learn from anywhere. So we saw a big influx of families coming to buy Airstreams to hit the road, knowing that they could do everything they needed to do as long as they had good Wi-Fi. So this work from anywhere crowd has been a big boost to our business. A lot of younger buyers, millennials in particular, that have now jobs that they can take on the road and motivated to try something different, change their lives and lifestyles. And they see the opportunity to connect with nature and visit the beautiful state and national parks to which we all have access. That's been the biggest shift we've seen over the last couple of years.
And I'm guessing that prior to COVID, you would have, if you were to put it onto a marketing plan, you would have easily said, we got to get younger. I mean, we got to figure out a way to get younger. So whether that was developing a TikTok channel or an Instagram account or something, but you had to get younger. You just didn't know that geopolitical geopolitical events would really drive you there.
Are you telling me you haven't seen my TikTok channel? Yeah, to your point.
I have not.
Yeah, well, that's good. Please don't search for it. We're always looking to try to attract the younger buyer. I mean, the lifestyle, let's face it, lends itself to somebody who's either semi-retired or retired because they've got the time to travel, justify the investment in Airstream. But we know that if we can get younger customers to fall in love with the idea of travel, adventure, connection with nature, and doing it in a stylish way with a product that's really iconic and long lasting, that's going to enhance their lives and their lifestyles, and they'll become customers for life. So we develop smaller, lighter weight products, less expensive, that might be more appropriate for a younger buyer. And actually the Base Camp, which is our smallest, lightest, least expensive travel trailer, is our best-selling model right now. So I think we've done a lot of the right things to try to get people to consider the lifestyle well before they go to their retirement party.
Bob, it's a lifestyle, but it's also a cultural icon, isn't it? And the culture is based on that freedom of movement. Back to Wally's first phrase, back to finding the rainbow. Are there cultural elements that are easily transferable because of what Airstream is? Is it readily apparent to everybody that Airstream is not just a way to get to the national park, but it is truly a community? It's kind of a belief system to some extent, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. We have a community and a culture that really is unlike any other RV product. And you can give Wally Byam the credit. Back in the 50s, he stopped leading the company day to day and started leading these caravans of Airstream trailers all over the globe and capturing it on film, communicating it to potential buyers through Mexico to South America, across Europe. There was a round the world caravan, literally. And then maybe most famously, the Cape Town to Cairo caravan in 1959, which took 3 months, 14,000 miles traversing back and forth across parts of Africa through the trackless desert of the Sahara. Amazing footage and imagery. And all of that really helped cement the idea in the minds of Americans that Airstreams were the ultimate tool for travel and adventure. And that spark and that inspiration still remains today in ways that we really still benefit from.
Where do your owners go geographically? I'm sure you track this, and you're a very global company now, but I'm guessing the answer is everywhere, right? So Airstream has the capability to take you wherever your fantasy will conjure up. But generally, when you look at your customers, where are they headed?
Well, about 96% of our business is still here in North America. So we're very focused on this market. And the short answer is west. About 60% of everything we sell goes west of the Rockies. Tremendous destinations, again, national and state parks, the national forest, U.S. Forest Service lands. The Alaskan Highway is kind of that epic adventure that all Airstreamers dream of, and many of them take on. And our international business is slow but steady. We've got a dedicated customer base in Europe, and driven out of our dealership in Germany primarily, but also in the UK. We have a presence in South Korea. Historically, we've been in Indonesia, Australia, China. So global footprint, I would say, is not that huge, but it's really interesting. When I talk to customers in these markets, they may not speak English, but they had that same gleam in their eye, that same spark of adventure and opportunity and excitement about their next trip. Even though I may not understand what they're saying, I know exactly what they're saying because I see that same look here in the U.S. So that's a lot of fun.
You've also ventured into Sprinter vans, Class C, which opened up the highways to people who want to travel but didn't want to try and maneuver fifth wheel trailers. Ventured into self-contained and propelled motorhomes, and part of Thor Industries. Tell me a little bit about Thor Industries.
Yeah, so Thor Industries is the world's largest manufacturer of recreational vehicles. Here in the US, they're just about 50% market share. And they were founded in 1980 in order to purchase Airstream. We were their first acquisition. And they've gone on to acquire a significant chunk of the industry here in the US, and they bought their largest global counterpart in Europe about 3 years ago, called Heimer AG. And so tremendous parent company, very well run. But the best part from my perspective is they let me run my own show. And I do this with all their subsidiaries. Very light touch from an oversight standpoint, but they provide all the financial backing and support we need. So great company to work for, great company to be part of. But again, we run very, very independently.
And how many different motorhome companies do they have?
Oh boy. RV companies, about 15 now, and they've purchased a couple of suppliers. I'm probably overestimating just a little on the RV companies, but yeah, it's a great range from kind of a lot of more price-sensitive products, commodity travel trailers and motorhomes, to some really high-end stuff. But Airstream is their first company and still really the flagship brand of the Thor portfolio, and we are proud of that position.
It's interesting, right? The amount of time that you've been within the company, I'm sure you've seen this transition, but it's kind of like motorhomes or fifth wheels, Sprinter vans, certainly. Everybody's kind of been awakened to the idea that this is a cool business to be in. And it's certainly very different than, the motorhomes that I remember when I was growing up. One of them had a big W on the side.
Sure.
But this is the interest that you're getting from all facets of the industry, investors and dealers and people who want to be part of this. It's got to be absolutely mind-boggling to you how much it's changed.
Yeah, it really has. And you touched on the advent of the Type B motorhome. The van life movement has really brought a lot of people to the RV industry that wouldn't have considered it otherwise. They see this independent lifestyle, travel where you want, stay anywhere, stay everywhere. And that's really set the hook for a lot of younger buyers. And the industry is now making products that are really kind of van life friendly. So that's been a nice expansion of our customer base and kind of an awareness about the opportunity. But broadly speaking, the RV industry has been growing strongly year over year for a long, long time, really since 08 and 09, when the last recession came to an end, as people recognize that it's an economic way to travel. It's great to travel here in the US, connect with the natural spaces that are really one of the national treasures we have available to us. Great family activity. Really, I know it's a cliche, but sitting around the campfire with your family, there's nothing like it. And you want a chance to connect with your kids or your parents or friends. It's a tremendous way to spend time, and healthy and active, and checks a lot of boxes that a lot of people really, really find important.
You mentioned bringing folks into the RV business who maybe would not have normally thought about the RV business. I think that applies to you too. You came from a family of English majors. Both of your parents and all three siblings found their professions in language. But your only experience with an RV came at a NASCAR race, which is appropriate. With some college buddies. You weren't really campers, is what you've said in the past. Are you one now?
Yeah, it's funny. You've done your research. I like that. Yeah, I grew up in a family. I grew up in the country, which, when you live in the country, you don't camp much because, that's what you're doing. My folks were English professors, but my dad was very, very mechanical and taught me a love of cars and stuff with wheels. And I remember happy hours changing brake pads and adjusting points and condensers and, honing master cylinders. He was that guy. So I learned that from him, and that's carried on into my career as an engineer. But yeah, we didn't camp much. But when I got to college and started hanging out with some college friends, going to NASCAR races, we wanted to stay at the track and really couldn't afford much. So we started out tent camping, and then I went to work for GM, and I would get these GM vans. We'd sleep in the back of these vans, these panel vans, and then we graduated to a pop-up camper. Now that was pretty high test stuff at the time. We were up.
That's pretty cool. A pop-up camper, right? I love those.
Exactly. That was luxury a couple of years, and then I went to work for Fleetwood Motorhomes, which was my first employer in the RV industry, and started borrowing these big Class A motorhomes. And you can imagine when I rolled up in one of those things, my buddy's socks started rolling up and down after having spent all those years slumming it. So after that, we were kind of hooked on the RV lifestyle, and so that was the era before I got married. Then once I got married, the chance to and I used to be a big backpacker and camper, but you get a couple of kids in the mix, and it just gets so much easier to experience nature, go to parks, do your hikes, and have a place to come back to at night where there's a bed and a shower and a toilet. And so that's really how I got into the RV lifestyle, is backing into it through both my personal life and my professional life. So I am a camper now, take a big trip every summer in an Airstream, as you might imagine. I've got a nice 1956 Pacer vintage trailer that we've outgrown of the kids, but it's still my gem, my jewel.
Any similarities or transferable skills that went from your early start in an automotive career to where you are now?
Yeah, having that mechanical sense. I'm a mechanical engineer. I started out as a manufacturing engineer for GM. All that mechanical stuff still stands me in good stead. I'm still involved in product decisions almost every day. So understanding how the thing works in systems and, structural components and rigidity and aerodynamics, all of that really helps me. It drives my engineers nuts. It's the things you don't want is your boss to have any kind of expertise in your area, especially when he thinks he knows more than he does. I'm probably guilty of that. So, I try to keep it in check, but I love participating in those conversations. It has helped a lot.
So speaking of engineering, lightweighting. Lightweighting is the absolute new holy grail, right? I mean, it all relates back to fuel economy, and we're going to get into a couple of your really exciting announcements here that have happened of late. But tell me about lightweighting in RVs. You say it's the next big thing, but that's not just because of fuel prices, right?
Yeah, no, lightweighting is obviously it's something that's important in anything you tow. It hasn't been that big a focus here in the US, honestly, with very affordable gas prices and big V8 tow vehicles that can pull just about anything. Where you've seen real advances being made are in Europe, where if you can get a 6-cylinder vehicle, that's a rarity. There's severe limitations on how much weight you can tow with a given tow vehicle. So the RV manufacturers over there have really had to bear down on more exotic materials, different construction techniques, ways to take pounds or kilograms out of the products, as it were. We're starting to see that pressure here in more and more of the states, here in the States, as tow vehicles get lighter, gas prices go up, as they have here pretty dramatically recently. And then, of course, with the advent of electric vehicles and the prospect of EV towing, every single pound is going to make a big difference in the range you get with your EV, even more critically than it does with your internal combustion engine. So things are really going to start to come to a head and have to accelerate here in the States much faster than they have in the past, and maybe much more in line with what's going on in Europe.
Do you anticipate just being able to offer a huge or a wider range of options for your buyers going forward? It'll be that combination of maybe maintaining a current size RV, using lighter materials, or downsizing RVs?
Yeah, we've actually been doing both. You can take weight out by making things smaller, and that's an effective way to create a lighter product that meets the needs for some customers. For other customers, they care less about weight, and they've got the different tow vehicle and they need the space. So we'll never force all of our products into one product box, but we want to create a range of options and alternatives for folks who might come into the lifestyle at a different point with a different expectation and be able to meet their needs. So we've got opportunities to create a range of products in terms of weight and cost that really give people of any desire or need an option.
So then you unveiled recently the E-Stream.
The E-Stream.
When you want to talk about revolutionary movements within an industry that's been fairly stable over the course of the last number of decades, the first electric powered camper in the US, as you said, when it was launched, there's nothing like it in the industry. Tell me why, Bob.
Well, the E-Stream was and is a real swing for the fences concept vehicle developed by Airstream with our parent company, Thor Industries, and our German affiliate, the Heimer Group. And what we realized we needed to do was rather than wade into this space or dip our toe in the water in terms of trying to create a travel trailer that was really ultimately designed to be towed by EVs, we really needed to go for it, pack as many features, content, systems into this product as we could to create a real halo concept vehicle for us, from which we could learn, get customer feedback, listen to what the press had to say about it, maybe put a couple of test vehicles on the road and get specific in-market feedback. So we developed the E-Stream, as you note, and it is the first of its kind. It's a fully powered travel trailer, so it's got an 80 kilowatt battery baked into the chassis. It's got 2 drive motors on the wheels. It's a single axle travel trailer with drive wheels, very light tongue weight, so that it can drive itself when needed. In particular, and this is the money shot, when you get to your campsite and backing a travel trailer up, anyone that's done it, it's this inside joke. They'll all start to laugh and pat each other on the back. It's an experience. And there's a saying, wherever your marriage is headed, backing a trailer up together will get it there faster. So this feature, which allows you to move the travel trailer into a tight campsite with your iPhone, not even hooked to the tow vehicle, is one of the nice perks of this system.
Wow.
But really more importantly and practically day to day is the wheels are powered. So as it feels a pull on the tongue of the travel trailer, it can apply power to the wheels and really reduce the load, the drag on that tow vehicle in a way that not only extends your range dramatically if you're towing with an electric vehicle, but also if you're towing with a conventional tow vehicle, it extends your fuel mileage. So tremendous number of features packed into this thing. We're really excited about it. Market reaction has been intense and very, very positive. So now we're figuring out what feature set from this. We really need to boil it down to make it affordable and practical for more and more people.
Well, that's it, right? Because of the number of features that you have on it, including the charging by solar, the solar batteries that are on the trailer's roof. That powers lights, appliances, other devices. You don't need propane then. And in fact, you said on the launch, you estimate it could be used for 2 weeks without supplemental power or solar. Interesting concept, but probably not cheap.
No, and again, in this concept, we really packed everything in. It's got 900 watts of solar on the roof, a fully integrated control system, house control system with voice enabled Amazon Alexa control. And then, of course, the chassis itself and all the software it takes to run that complex power and power distribution system. Yeah, I wouldn't even want to guess what this particular prototype would cost, but our job now is to figure out what of those features are really practical for most consumers. Do you need 80 kilowatts of power? That's a pretty big battery. Do you need 2 drive motors? Do you need all the sophistication and control? Do you need 900 watts of solar? So we have to come up with a mix of these features that really make sense and are affordable. And that's the challenge we're up against, but very excited to take it on. We have had a number of people reach out and see if they could buy the prototype exactly as is, but that may not be the most practical setup for most of our customers.
How long until we actually see an e-trailer?
I would say we're probably 24 months away from having something to market that resembles the concept trailer. And in the meantime, we'll have a couple of test vehicles on the road. We're talking to our subset of people that already tow with electric vehicles. They've learned a lot about what you can and can't do successfully, and soliciting market feedback from our dealers, our customers, hearing what the press has to say. So it's a really exciting project. We're really on the learning curve, but very, very excited to be on that journey.
And so many electric vehicles on the way to the market. I'm just curious about one thing you just said, that you're also getting feedback from those who do have EVs right now and are towing with their EVs. What are they telling you?
Primarily, they're Tesla owners, Model Y owners that are towing with their Teslas. Those are the first products to market with any EVs to market with any kind of tow capacity. We expect to see a lot more Ford Lightnings as tow vehicles here in the near future, and then and right as these EVs come to market. So what they're telling us is, pulling a travel trailer impacts your range. If you can get 50% of your stated range pulling a trailer of any kind, you're doing pretty well. And it rewrites the way you have to plan a trip. And it's interesting, this group is more than happy to overcome those challenges. They love the idea of towing with a very efficient vehicle. Many are driven by sustainability motives. They don't want to drive their carbon footprint any higher than it is. So, but they crave a travel trailer that they can use without such range impact and range anxiety that produces. So they love the idea of off-grid. We didn't talk about that, but the Airstream, with all of its battery power and fully integrated systems, is really ideally designed to be off-grid. You mentioned 2 weeks, even without supplemental sunshine and solar power. And we think that's a tremendous stake in the ground to be able to use your air conditioning. I mean, let's face it, many places you camp, you need it. So those same EV towers are saying, yeah, we'd love to be off-grid more. Many of them are campground averse. They want to be out in the wilderness that's available to us here in the US. So we're packing all of that feedback into figuring out the right feature set, and pretty excited about the prospects.
In fact, yeah, you had talked at the launch of the fact that this could be, you could almost stay out indefinitely with sun and a little more modest use of air conditioning. I mean, that in itself is an enormous breakthrough in your
business.
It
is not to have a generator or LP on board. And if you watch your systems, and we've got great controls and monitors to allow you to do that, you get a decent amount of sun and you're out there as long as you want. So it's that kind of independence that we're really excited about, and give people the freedom to go anywhere they want.
How much more, I'd say, technological innovation could occur within the space as a whole? When you think about the end of the decade, as an example, what does Airstream look like in 2030?
Yeah, great question. And we challenge ourselves with that all the time. I think in 2030, we're going to have to live in a world where the you still have the vast majority of the vehicles in the US internal combustion, and let's not pretend that's going to change in, the next 8 years. But we have to acknowledge where the car companies are headed, and you can't open automotive news anytime you don't see somebody putting another stake in the ground in terms of converting their fleet to EV. So we have to be positioned to take advantage of that and provide our customers alternatives if they choose to go that route. So I see things, running in parallel. We'll continue to build traditional Airstream travel trailers and motorhomes, focus on lightweighting, which helps anybody, frankly, regardless of what you're towing with, but develop in parallel these products that are specifically aimed at the EV tower, and will our fleet migrate ultimately to build just those kind of travel trailers? Maybe, but it's not going to be in the next 8 years, maybe in the next 30 years. But we have to be out ahead of it because we can't respond quickly enough if we get behind the market. The other side of the coin is the motorhomes, which we've talked a little bit about, but as chassis suppliers like Mercedes-Benz and Dodge and Ford start to provide EV platforms on which we can build our motorhome conversions, then that really is going to take care of itself. And you're already starting to see some of that in the market before many travel trailers, just because, again, the big automotive suppliers have taken on that challenge for multiple reasons.
The public, of course, always looking for an exciting place to go. And I want to talk to you a little bit about roadtrippers.com, which is a site that was purchased within the last 5 years. The roadtrippers.com helps to coalesce that Airstream community, but it isn't just reserved for followers of the brand. Tell me a little bit about roadtrippers.com and what the aim of that is.
Yeah, Thor purchased Road Trippers, I guess it's been about 4 years ago. Great young startup company out of Cincinnati, Ohio, whose goal was help people plan trips that aren't about A to B. It's not about how quickly do I get there using the most highways. It's about planning a trip that has waypoints, detours, distractions, get you off the main highways to visit points of interest within striking distance of your main route. It's really designed for the meandering traveler that wants a story and an adventure rather than the most efficient way to get to your destination. So it's a whole different take on travel planning and navigation apps, and they have turn-by-turn navigation too. But it's a brilliantly conceived and very, very well executed platform app for folks that want to travel and have an adventure versus just get to where they're going as quickly as they can. So it's got a great feel, and they're doing very, very well.
Who needs the Rand McNally or the AAA triptych anymore, right, Bob?
Well, no, I am a little fond of my maps.
Turn by turn.
I like my paper maps, but they're more from nostalgia than practicality. But yeah, to your point, this is a great substitute for all of that.
You're a car guy too, aren't you?
I am. I like stuff with wheels.
So tell me about the Bob Wheeler car guy collection.
Well, so it started with my dad. I was growing up. He's funny. He loved cars, but could never afford any. He never had a new car in his life, but he had 2 Model A's when he was 16 years old. This is back in the early 40s. And I remember him telling me stories of his Willie's Night sleeve valve engine car that he had in his college years. And then when I was along, he had a Rover, which my enduring memory is this thing propped up on jack stands with his legs sticking out from underneath it, swearing a blue streak. That was his Rover. He loved it and hated it at the same time. A number of Ford station wagons, a lot. He had a Beetle phase. I think we had 3 at one point. Anyway, these are all the cars that imprinted me in my youth. And then I went to work for General Motors right out of college. Got a 5-speed Beretta that was pretty hot stuff for me back when I was 21 years old. But favorites over the years are Audi Tt. I love that car. Very, very stylish and fun and fast. Not so practical when you have a kid. The car seats don't squeeze into that thing so well. And then it became some more practical cars. I'm an Audi guy. I drove S4s for a number of years. and then switched to Tesla about
Hmm.
5 years ago. I'm on my second Model S. Really drawn to the car for performance reasons, obviously, but the technology and the user experience. In fact, in very real ways, owning that Tesla helped lead to developing our smart and connected platform for our travel trailers, which allows system control and access and remote monitoring and control and a number of things that are kind of table stakes now in a lot of automobiles. But that sparked that whole development and really pushed us in a new direction. So, credit the Tesla.
Tesla's been a disruptor, across the auto industry in general, and I'm guessing even beyond the connectivity piece of it that you've realized in your own product development, there are other disruptors who can help push you a little further as well. They may not even be automotive, and they might not even be from the same, trailer industry, but where do you get your inspiration? Where are you drawing from in order to try to push the team a little further to come up with some advancements?
Well, it's, in some ways, it's almost anywhere and everywhere, but the automotive space provides great insight, especially when it comes to motorhomes. Obviously, the RVs you drive, home automation, smart home systems, and connectivity and features make a lot of sense in something that really is a home on the road, right? In some ways, it's even more critical that you understand what's going on with your RV systems, energy uses, resource utilization. Those industries we keep a close eye on. Obviously, there's a lot of money that goes into developing platforms in that space that we can tap into and use. The supplier base for the industry, a lot of innovation comes out of that. They're developing better and better systems and features for RVs, more efficient. But we look to green and sustainability industries now moving forward. Water recycling. How can you reuse your gray water in your RV to create an endless shower? How can you create more efficient systems, more efficient toilets that don't use so much water? More high efficient solar or higher efficiency solar to help, again, create energy where you are and allow you to stay off grid longer. Really, we're a big funnel and a lot of stuff goes into it. And you coalesce all that, and our products, both travel trailers and motorhomes, just continue to get better and better features and more efficient.
You have a relatively new headquarters outside of Jackson Center, Ohio. Tell me how important that was when we go back to where we started this conversation, which was the founding of the company. Now to have what you have in Ohio, what does that mean to you personally?
It really, when we decided to build a big new plant and office complex here in Jackson Center, it's very gratifying to be able to double down here in the place where Airstream really grew to be the company it is. Founded in California, but here in Jackson Center since 1953, and now solely located here. But when we decided we needed more manufacturing facility and new offices, we had a lot of pull to go to where the market is out west. Like I said, 60% of everything we sell goes west of the Rockies. Northern Indiana, where our parent company is located, there's a huge supplier base there, so that was tempting. But the one thing we couldn't guarantee that we would be able to recreate in either of those two places is the workforce. The folks here, generations that have worked at the Airstream plant. In fact, we have a couple of families here that currently have 3 generations working at the same time, and many, many examples of 2 generations here. We just didn't feel we could recreate that dedication, the loyalty, the commitment to craftsmanship and quality. So we doubled down here, built a $60 million plant that's going to be the foundation of the brand for the next 50 years. And I love that we were able to do it in a small town. We had to add a second stoplight, much to the chagrin of some of the locals, but had to happen. And it's a great relationship with the village of Jackson Center, and 1,500 people here in town. So we're a big part of it.
Well, you're reinventing the look and feel of the company as well, because all you have to do is look at the Airstream YouTube channel to see that you're now in the broadcast world as well, right, Bob?
Yeah, it's all about content creation. I don't need to tell you. And we're lucky enough to have a tremendous marketing department and great agencies that work for us. I give my CMO a hard time. I'd say, hey, you could be working for a company that makes some part that goes inside a dishwasher and try to get people to tell excited stories about that product. In some ways, stuff just falls in our lap. People love to use their Airstreams. They love to document it. And some of that we curate, but a lot of it we just harvest. And people are more than happy and very excited to show off the lives they're leading as they travel and meet other people and make connections and have adventures. And yeah, we're very lucky that the story tells itself in some ways.
What do you want your legacy to be once the time at Airstream shifts to something else? Once it shifts to you spending more time in an Airstream?
Yeah, well, I look forward to that. Certainly, it's kind of the dirty little secret of the industry that the folks that make these things don't get to use them much. But
right, or eventually end up in them.
Yeah, exactly. Legacy is a tough question. Certainly to be part of building this facility, which will stand the company in good stead moving forward. But I will say this, we have a tremendous quality control system here, and it's largely inspection based. And we're pushing forward on some initiatives that should create even more legendary and bulletproof quality, unit to unit, piece to piece. And frankly, if we can get something put in place, even at our low volumes and relatively small size, that I can look back on and say, that was a real inflection point where we took high quality to an even higher level, then that would be a legacy I'd be proud of, even more so than this fancy new facility we have here.
And finally, when you think back to the guy who went to the NASCAR race in the RV, and you think about what you're helping to produce now, you must look back, Bob, and just think, what a wild ride, so to speak, you've been on with all of this.
Yeah, when I look back, it's very gratifying and a little confusing to figure out how I ended up where I have. I've been very lucky, for one thing. I've had tremendous mentors. And the fact that I landed here, really at the only company in the industry I think I could ever work. Again, I just kind of know where to go after you've been at Airstream. I feel very, very lucky. I've been lucky enough to attract a great team here that keeps me out of the weeds. And it's so gratifying to go to rallies, meet Airstream customers. They tell me two things consistently. It changed my life, and I wish I'd done it sooner. And when you hear that, you realize you're part of something pretty special. So the opportunity to make an impact on people's lives, change their lives and lifestyles in a positive way. And if I've helped create that next opportunity for the next 20, 30, 40 years, I'll feel really good about that.
And to be part of the very namesake of the show, the culture of society. You're helping form that on a regular basis. Airstream is a part of the culture. All you got to do is check out the YouTube channel, and you'll see the cultural aspects that exist there. But you've been part of that, and you've helped form that. I'm sure you would concur, you and your team. Yes,
I'm very proud of that, and lucky to be at the right place in the right time with the right people to push the brand forward, and much more good stuff to come.
Yeah, Bob, thank you so much for being on Cars and Culture and telling us a little bit about a world that I know many people are a part of, but we have yet to explore on this program.
Yeah, Jason, thanks so much for having me on, and appreciate it.
Great, thank you.
The automobile is one of the most important inventions that revolutionized the modern world. In America, the rich history of car culture runs deep as technology continues to shape the future of the industry. Jason Stein,
former publisher of Automotive News,
is here to share the stories of people passionate about cars, from industry leaders and innovators to car-obsessed celebrities. Buckle up as Jason takes you inside the boardroom, onto the track, and around the bend on Cars and Culture on SiriusXM Business Radio.